Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are going to challenge literally everything you thought you knew about the cost of the natural world around you. You look outside, you see trees, rivers, maybe some clouds, and it all just seems there, right? Free for the taking. But is it? Today, we're unpacking the totally fascinating economics of ecosystem services and revealing the hidden price tags attached to nature. So let's dive right into this by asking a pretty provocative question. Think about your everyday life. When you grab a glass of tap water, or eat food grown in fertile soil, or honestly, just step outside and take a deep breath of fresh air, who actually pays for it? We tend to view these things as a basic right, a free and totally infinite resource. But treating them as free might actually be the most expensive mistake we could ever make. To really get a grip on the true cost here, we actually have to completely redefine how we look at nature. Instead of just the pretty, free backdrop, economists want us to see it as highly valuable natural capital. Simply put, an ecosystem is this massive, dynamic, living engine of plants, animals, and the environment all working together. And the benefits we constantly reap from this engine, well, those are called ecosystem services. All right, let's get into section 1, the inventory of nature, and break down the 4 types of benefits. Think of nature as this huge ecological bank account. And this account offers us 4 primary types of services, ranging from super tangible physical goods you can hold in your hand, all the way to invisible, microscopic processes that literally keep us alive. These are provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services, and supporting services. Every single benefit we pull from the earth falls into one of these 4 buckets. It's a really vast spectrum of benefits. On one side, you've got wetlands naturally filtering our water, or even a tiny ladybug acting as natural pest control for crops. Those are what we call regulating services, processes that naturally moderate things like climate, disease, and floods. On the flip side, we have cultural services. Think about people whitewater rafting, finding recreation, cognitive development, or even spiritual enrichment out in nature. It's not a physical object, obviously, but it adds immense value to our human well-being. Now, let's talk about the stuff we actually extract. When we look at provisioning services, so the physical things we take right out of nature, they can be neatly summed up into what's known as the 5 Fs. We're talking food, feed, fiber, fuel, and pharmaceuticals. It's honestly wild how directly our everyday items tie straight back to these raw ecosystem outputs. I mean, think about your dinner. Whether it's steak or a salad, that's food. The soybeans grown just to feed livestock, that's feed. The cotton in the t-shirt you're wearing right now, fiber. The biomass or fossil fuels keeping your lights on, fuel. And even that aspirin you take for a headache is a pharmaceutical derived directly from natural chemical compounds. We are literally harvesting our entire modern lives right out of this natural capital. But here's the absolute crucial point. None of those products, none of those regulating systems or cultural experiences would even exist without the base layer, supporting services. These are the fundamental, behind-the-scenes processes like photosynthesis, nutrient cycling, and the actual creation of soil itself. Without these hidden engines constantly running in the background, the Earth just couldn't sustain basic forms of life. Our ecological bank account would be entirely empty. Which brings us to Section 2, the threat to natural capital, or as we should probably call it, overdrawing our account. Now, this is where the story shifts into pretty concerning territory. To put the pressure we're putting on the environment into undeniable perspective, consider this one data point. Back in 2006, 6.44 billion people on Earth each ate about 16.4 kilograms of fish. You do the math, and that translates to a total global consumption of over 110 million tons of fish in a single year. And the terrifying consequence of that staggering demand? 80% of 523 world fish stocks are currently fully exploited or overexploited. Let that sink in for a second. This basically means we have effectively reached the absolute maximum wild capture potential from the world's oceans. The bank simply cannot hand out any more wild fish without the account completely collapsing. And, it's definitely not just the oceans. We are actively destroying the vigor of our natural capital across the board. We're tearing up natural habitats, pushing species to the brink of extinction. We're totally altering global chemical cycles by burning fossil fuels, and we're toxifying our land and waterways. Basically, we are making massive withdrawals, but we aren't making any deposits. So what do we do about it? Let's get into Section 3, valuing the invaluable, and look at the economics of conservation. To actually protect these threatened services, Economists literally have to calculate their dollar value to prove to the world why they're worth saving. Okay, let's break down this idea of total economic value. Economists split this up into two main categories: use value and non-use value. Use value covers the stuff we interact with directly, like drinking water or harvesting fish, plus things we benefit from indirectly, like a wetland's ability to stop local flooding. But non-use value, that's a bit wilder. It includes bequest value, keeping things around just so future generations might use them. And it's the existence value, preserving a panda, a blue whale, or a wild eagle simply because they have a fundamental right to exist, even if we never personally get to see one. So, how do we translate these abstract ecological ideas into concrete money that policymakers and businesses can actually use? Well, economists rely on a core concept called an individual's willingness to pay, or WTP for short. This is exactly what it sounds like: the absolute maximum amount of money a person is willing to hand over in return for receiving or preserving a specific environmental benefit. Let's see how they figure that out in Section 4, Calculating the Incalculable, exploring the methods of economic valuation. Environmental economists basically have a toolkit with 5 distinct methods, and these let them put hard, quantifiable numbers on everything from commercial fish harvests to the pure aesthetic beauty of a remote, untouched forest. Let's briefly look at how a few of these actually work in practice. All right, first up, the market price method. This one's the most direct. It estimates the economic value of commercial ecosystem products, things that are actively bought and sold in regular markets. It measures the use value of traded resources by looking at standard market revenues, production costs, and the surplus value consumers get beyond what they actually paid at the register. Let's say a commercial fishing area is suddenly closed because of water pollution. How do we figure out the exact financial benefit of cleaning it up? Well, we calculate the consumer surplus, which is the maximum people were willing to pay minus what they actually paid before the closure, and then we just compare it to the surplus after. That lost economic value gives us an exact, hard dollar justification for the cost of an environmental cleanup. Alternatively, we can measure value a bit more indirectly. Take the productivity method. Here we look at how environmental amenities directly impact commercial goods. For instance, how much does improved water quality boost irrigated crop yields or lower the cost of city water purification? Then there's the hedonic pricing method. This evaluates how pleasant environments, like having crisp, clean air or living next to a beautiful park, directly bumps up local real estate prices. The environment's value is literally baked right into the price of the home. Then we have the travel cost method. I love this one because it's a really clever way to value recreational sites. It basically proves that the beauty of a natural park is worth at least the total amount of money and time people spend traveling just to get there. If 1,000 people spend $100 each just to drive out and visit a specific waterfall, well, that waterfall's recreational value is at least $100,000. Makes sense, right? Now, to measure that tricky non-use value we talked about earlier, economists rely on the contingent valuation method. Check out this real-world application. Researchers identified a critical threatened fish habitat in the Four Corners region of the U.S. They sent surveys to 800 random households across Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah, simply asking what they would be willing to pay into a trust fund to save this habitat. The result? They discovered an average willingness to pay of $195 per household. When you apply that to the whole population, the total value of preserving the habitat totally crushed the costs of saving it. And remember, these people were willing to pay this just to preserve an endangered fish they may never ever see in their lifetimes. Which finally brings us to the bottom line of our ledger. The absolutely crucial takeaway from this explainer is that our natural capital is not infinite. We've seen how every single fiber of our clothes, every bite of our food, and the very air we breathe is a massive withdrawal from the Earth's ecological bank account. And right now, we're withdrawing way faster than the Earth can replenish. If natural capital really is a bank account, how long can we possibly afford to make withdrawals without making a single deposit? What is the true cost of taking nature for granted? Think about that the next time you take a breath of fresh air. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.